In the sacred pages of the Bible, there are stories that are more than just accounts. They are mirrors for our soul. And one of them, found in the book of Genesis, haunts us with a single image: a woman, frozen in time, transformed into a pillar of salt. Peace be with you, my brothers and sisters. We all know the story of the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah. But today, I want to invite you to look beyond the rain of fire and brimstone. I want you to feel the tension in the air, the anguish of a family being torn from their home, and most importantly, the fatal hesitation that cost a life. What was so precious in that condemned city that made a woman disobey a direct divine command, even with salvation within her reach? What made her look back? This is not just the story of Lot's wife. It is our story. It is the story of the daily battle we fight between God's call to the future and attachment to a past that He has already condemned. This message is for you who feel your heart divided, for you who have heard God say, "Come out, abandon, leave behind," but a part of you still hesitates, still clings. The secret behind the pillar of salt is a powerful revelation about the danger of clinging to what the Lord is destroying. It is a key to your total liberation today. At the end of this video, we will discover together the prayer of escape that can protect your family from spiritual destruction, and uncover the true reason why Lot's wife could not abandon Sodom, a reason that may be paralyzing your own walk of faith right now. Stay with me, for what we will learn today could be the difference between paralysis and purpose. To understand hesitation, we first need to understand comfort. Genesis tells us that Lot, Abraham's nephew, chose for himself the well-watered plains of the Jordan, pitching his tents near Sodom. The city was prosperous, vibrant, full of opportunities. For Lot and his family, Sodom was home. It was where their possessions were, their friendships, their routine, their social identity. Lot became an important figure in the city, sitting at the gate, a place of honor and judgment. Just as David found purpose in the field, Lot found a life in Sodom. But there was a problem. The Bible describes the men of Sodom as wicked and great sinners against the Lord. The prosperity of that city was built upon a foundation of corruption and moral perversion. And slowly, without realizing it, the culture of Sodom began to infiltrate Lot's family. What is your Sodom today? That place, habit, relationship, or comfort that, despite appearing good on the outside, is drawing you away from God's plans and corrupting your values? The call to adventure, the turning point, did not come as a gentle invitation, but as an emergency divine intervention. Two angels arrive in Sodom and are received by Lot. The city's perversity is brutally revealed when all the men of the city surround Lot's house, demanding to abuse his visitors. The situation was so extreme that destruction became inevitable. The angels are clear and direct. Do you have anyone else here? Your sons-in-law, your sons, your daughters, and all who belong to you in the city, bring them out of this place. For we are about to destroy this place. Genesis 19:12-13. This is God's call. Just as He called Abraham to leave Ur, He was calling Lot and his family to come out of imminent destruction. God's voice is always a call to life. What Sodom is the Lord asking you to abandon today? It could be a mindset, an addiction, a toxic friendship. The urgency in the angel's voice is the same urgency of the Holy Spirit in your heart now. If you are willing to hear this divine call in your life, comment now, "Here I am, Lord." And here, the tragedy begins to unfold. Faced with such a clear warning and such an overwhelming display of power, the expected reaction would be immediate obedience. But the biblical text reveals something shocking. First, Lot's sons-in-law mocked him, thinking it was a joke. Lot's life of compromises had stripped his words of their weight. Then, at dawn, the angels had to hurry him. But the most revealing passage is Genesis 19:16. But he lingered. He hesitated. Even with angels by his side, even knowing of the imminent judgment, Lot delayed. Why? Because his heart was divided. His life was there. His investments, his memories, his status. Abandoning Sodom was not just leaving a city. It was leaving an identity. Just as Moses doubted his ability before the burning bush, Lot doubted if he could live without Sodom. What fears and attachments are hindering your obedience? Fleeing from sin and judgment requires urgency, but the baggage of the world slows us down. Lot's encounter with divine authority manifests in an impressive way. Mercy that does not accept no as an answer. Seeing Lot's hesitation, the verse continues, "So the men seized his hand and the hand of his wife and the hands of his 2 daughters. For the Lord was merciful to him, and they brought him out and set him outside the city." Genesis 19:16. Notice the depth of this. They were saved not by their readiness, but by God's persistent mercy. The angels, the masters of that moment, did not give up on him. They dragged him to salvation. How many times has the Lord not done this in your life? When you hesitated, He sent someone to take your hand. When you delayed, He created a circumstance to push you out of danger. God uses people, uses circumstances, uses His word to pull us out of places of destruction. God's authority is not just a power that condemns, but a mercy that actively rescues. He is your ever-present help in trouble. If you recognize God's merciful hand rescuing you in your life, follow this channel to be strengthened daily and comment, "Mercy." Outside the city, on the threshold between destruction and salvation, the final instruction is given. A command with 3 crucial parts. Escape for your life. Do not look back, and do not stop anywhere in the plain. Escape to the mountains, lest you perish. Genesis 19:17. Crossing the threshold of salvation requires total obedience. The command was not just to leave, but to completely break ties. Do not look back. Looking back was not a simple turn of the head. It meant that the heart was still there. It meant longing for sin, regret for lost possessions, desire for a life that God had already judged. When God takes us out of Egypt, He does not want Egypt to remain within us. The decision to follow Christ is a decision to burn bridges with the condemned past. What bridge do you still refuse to burn? To symbolize your decision not to look back, like this video now. May this act be a sign of your commitment to the future God has for you. Even after the rescue and the clear command, Lot's faith is tested. He looks at the mountain, the safe place designated by God, and fear overwhelms him. He says to the angels, "I cannot escape to the mountains, lest some disaster overtake me and I die." Genesis 19:19. He then asks to go to a small nearby town called Zoar. Here we see the proof of wavering faith. Lot was so accustomed to the urban life of Sodom that the idea of living in the mountains, depending directly on God, terrified him. His allies, the angels, patiently negotiate with him, and God, in His grace, spares Zoar for Lot's sake. This teaches us something powerful. Sometimes, our fear of the unknown makes us negotiate with God. We ask for a Zoar, a small place, a middle ground, because we don't fully trust in His provision on the mountain. God, in His mercy, may even grant us our Zoars, but His original plan for us is always the place of greatest security and communion with Him. But Lot's negotiation had a tragic consequence, for the influence of Sodom had not yet been completely broken in his family, and the price of that connection would be revealed in moments. As Lot and his daughters ran to Zoar, literal and spiritual darkness descended. Then the Lord rained down burning sulfur on Sodom and Gomorrah from the Lord out of the heavens. Genesis 19:24. The destruction was total, sudden, and inevitable. And it is at this moment of final judgment that the darkness still residing in the heart of Lot's wife manifests itself. The Bible does not say she stumbled. It does not say she turned by accident. It says only a short, devastating sentence. The power of the enemy's accusation lies in convincing us that what we are leaving behind is more valuable than what God has ahead of us. Darkness is the nostalgia for sin. Lot's wife was not just a resident of Sodom. Sodom was a resident in her heart. And Lot's wife looked back, and she became a pillar of salt. Genesis 19:26. This is the climax, the ultimate test. A single act of disobedience that sealed her fate. She was saved from destruction, but she did not save herself from her own unbelief and attachment. She became a monument to disobedience, an eternal memorial to the danger of a divided heart. Jesus himself warned us in Luke 17:32 with just 3 words: remember Lot's wife. Why? Because he knew that the temptation to look back, to value our earthly life more than our eternal future, would be one of the greatest battles of our faith. The ultimate test is not facing the fire, but rather turning your back on it completely and trusting in the one who guides us out. Where is your gaze today? On the fire of destruction or on the mountain of salvation? Repeat aloud, wherever you are, my eyes are on Christ. The reward here seems bittersweet, but it is profoundly significant. Lot and his 2 daughters escaped. They survived. God's mercy fulfilled its purpose of preserving a remnant. For Abraham's sake, God remembered Lot and brought him out of the midst of the catastrophe. The greatest reward we can receive from God is our own life and the opportunity for a new beginning. Salvation is the greatest treasure. Lot lost everything he had built in Sodom: his home, his possessions, his wife. But he gained life. Often, to receive God's true reward, we must be willing to lose everything the world defines as reward. The promise of escape is real for you today. The Lord wants to take you out of the midst of destruction. He wants to give you life and life in abundance. But you need to be willing to leave the ashes behind to receive the crown. The prayer of escape is not a magic formula, but a posture of the heart. It is Lot's cry in Genesis 19:19, recognizing his inability and depending on grace. Your servant has found favor in your eyes, and you have shown me great kindness in saving my life. It is the prayer of dependence. The journey back to normalcy for Lot and his daughters was marked by tragedy. Fearing to stay in Zoar, they went to live in a cave in the mountains, the very place Lot initially feared. And there, the influence of Sodom manifested in a terrible way. Lot's daughters, believing there were no more men on earth, made their father drunk and committed incest with him to preserve their lineage. From this act were born the Moabites and the Ammonites, peoples who would become enemies of Israel in the future. See how hesitation and attachment to the world have generational consequences. Lot was physically saved, but the mindset of Sodom, fear, and lack of faith produced bitter fruits in his family. Returning to God's will is just the beginning. A process of sanctification is needed to uproot the world's roots from within us. Despite the somber end of Lot's personal story, the message of resurrection for us is powerful. The transformation of Lot's wife into a pillar of salt is not the end of the story. It is a warning so that we can revive in areas of our lives that have been paralyzed by attachment to the past. Just as Lazarus heard the voice of Jesus and came out of the tomb, God is calling you to come out of the pillar of salt of bitterness, paralyzing regret, and longing for a sinful past. What needs to revive in your life today? Your faith? Your dreams? Your holiness? Christ's resurrection assures us that the end of one chapter is always the beginning of a new one, written by God's grace. You don't have to be a monument to disobedience. You can be a living testimony to God's redemptive power. The blessing, the final revelation of this journey, is the key to never looking back again. The Apostle Paul gives us this key in Philippians 3:13-14. One thing I do, forgetting what is behind and straining toward what is ahead, I press on toward the goal. The key is not just not looking, but pressing on toward a goal. Lot's wife did not have a goal before her that was stronger than the pull of what was behind. If your focus is only on fleeing from something, you will always be tempted to look back. But if your focus is on running to someone, to Christ, to the goal, to the prize of the high calling, then what was left behind loses its power and allure. Your story of liberation from your past is not just for you. It is a powerful tool to save generations. Sharing your testimony is part of the Great Commission. It is not optional. Brother, sister, the spirit of Sodom still tries to seduce us with its promises of pleasure and comfort. The enemy whispers in our ears to make us look back, to convince us that life in sin was better, to paralyze us with guilt and longing. But I declare prophetically over your life today, the time for hesitation is over. The Lord is taking you by the hand, just as the angels did with Lot, and is pulling you out of the place of destruction. God's command for you today is, escape for your life. Do not negotiate, do not delay, do not look back. Enough with having a divided heart. Choose today whom you will serve. The fire of judgment is real, but the mercy of rescue is even more powerful. Fix your eyes on the author and perfecter of your faith, Jesus. The story of Lot's wife is a solemn warning, but the cross of Christ is a promise that even when we are weak, His grace is sufficient. Do not be remembered as a pillar of salt, a monument to almost, but as a son and a daughter who heard the call, obeyed the command, and ran toward the goal. If this word spoke powerfully to your heart, subscribe now to this channel to receive spiritual nourishment that will strengthen you not to look back. Activate notifications, because with each new video, a new tool for victory will be delivered to you. Now, we count on your help. Share this video with at least 5 people who need to hear this message of liberation. Let's spread the liberating truth together. And comment below to seal this word in your spirit. #Edo, not look back. Remember Lot's wife. Luke 17:32.